So yesterday I had one of the craziest experiences that I've ever had in my life, and it was very interesting how it all unfolded. And I think that it's important for me to take the time here to kind of like document it and just like put it out there to kind of explore it and like see how it all evolved. So, first and foremost, yesterday was a very interesting day for me because emotionally, mentally and emotionally, I was reaching a very interesting and specific threshold, right? This was in regards to habits that I have that overwhelm me because they're very unnecessary. I'm not going to get into the logistics of what they are here, but um, I was just really feeling overwhelmed by many different things. I also hadn't eaten sufficiently throughout the entire day, so I felt very hungry, and of course, how like hunger and all that kind of stuff works. Um, and Apparently, I had to wait longer for something to occur than I wanted to, right? Um, and what was so interesting was that I found out that um, as I found out that I had to wait longer for something than I wanted to, I I started to get really frustrated, right? Really frustrated. Back in what was it? 2015, I think it was. Um, I learned something that changed the course of my life forever. And what was so interesting was that I was able to use this idea from what I learned to persevere. I wouldn't even say persevere through this moment. I would say the the element of this moment that was so precious, the jewel here was surrender, right? When we are conditioned into specific narratives, specific, just the mental conditioning, right? Our mind is telling us that whatever is happening shouldn't be happening, or that it should be happening, or that it's supposed to happen this way or that way, right? And we can get sucked into these ideas, we can get sucked into these stories and narratives, and they can really pull us in a very specific direction. And this direction is usually a direction in which we are just used to and familiar with, right? It's crazy how we actually seek out what we're familiar with, and what we're familiar with is stress and chaos and unpredictability, right? And the hormones of stress, right? Cortisol, adrenaline, all that kind of stuff. Like, if that's not occurring, life can actually be boring for us, right? So we seek that stuff out. So it's quite, it makes sense that the mental narrative would be, it shouldn't be this way, it can't be this way, it's supposed to be that way or that way, this shouldn't be happening, I can't believe this is happening, this is ridiculous, this is unacceptable, they should know better, this, that, and it's just that kind of stuff over and over and over again. And so then what happened yesterday was I remembered um, this the spiritual saying that goes, accept what is in the present moment as though you've chosen it, right? And it's so interesting because, like, you might be out in the freezing cold and your body's like shivering and stuff, and you're like, no. But when you surrender, it changes the dynamics of everything. And not only surrender, but when you approach it as though you've chosen it, it changes everything. And you might ask yourself, well, if you're in a terrible situation, one that you clearly did not ask for, how on earth could you possibly, you know, accept it as if you have chosen it? How could you possibly even go about that route? And I will say that it has been time that I've been in this space of awareness and that I've been practicing this. And yesterday, just literally, the conditioned self collapsed. And I actually I started tearing up. I started crying. And it wasn't bad crying. It was, I mean, I don't like to label anything as like good or bad crying, or I don't like to label any kind of crying as good or bad crying. Crying is crying. I mean, of course, there could be tears of sadness, there could be tears of joy, all that kind of stuff. But this was just tears of like peace and euphoria and ecstasy. And I remember too because I was looking out of a window and there were plants outside in front, and the plants, this was a beautiful visual, the plants looked like, like when you look up in the sky, well, not when you look up in the sky, but when you look at a photograph that has captured a they leave the shutter open so it captures the stars in movement. my tears created this visual for me that it looked like there were stars in the plants because everything was blurred and everything was moving and it was so beautiful. And I just started tearing up, and my energy completely shifted. Like, I actually accepted the moment as though I chose it, even though I didn't. There were mental narratives running that were literally just in complete opposition. Fuck this shit. This is not supposed to be this way. It should be that way. This should have happened. That, and I completely surrendered all of that stuff, and I moved away from it, and I was like, oh, there's all that noise and chaos. Wow. And it completely just changed everything. Like, literally, like, I was so caught up in here, and then I brought my energy down. I brought my energy and my awareness down into the body, into my fingers, my feet, my toes, um, and just like the environment too, like spatial awareness, and it just completely changed everything. It was so profound, and I think it's still going. It's crazy. It's crazy how it's like unfolding, and it's like stopping me in my tracks. Like last night, when I ate food, when I ate dinner after like having kind of like fasted for a few hours, even whether or not that was considered fasting, I was very hungry. And I completely surrendered to the experience of eating. Like the food. I didn't shovel it down because I was hungry. I was just like, wow. And I tasted it and I felt it and I chewed it and everything. I just like very mindful, and it was so profound. We are run on a program, right? And that's going to be the way that things are going to be until that program is in the awareness, right? So there's a narrative, right? But until you do this and take a step back and you notice all the noise here and realize that you are the awareness, you're the observer behind that, and you're just like witnessing these narratives and stuff, and how you're saying how the conditioned self with all of its stories is saying how things should be, how they're supposed to be, this, that, and the other. But then you take a step back from that and you're like, oh wow, that is eons of conditioning. It literally changes the dynamics of everything. It's such a profound experience. And the more that you can sit inside of that energy, right? The more that you can sit inside of that space of awareness and just be present with what is, despite what it is, right? I mean, your capacity to judge things, like if you actually need to run because there's danger, that's a different story. But like, like if you're in a room and, you're caught up in here, just trying to, like consciously taking a step back and bringing your awareness and your energy down into the body. So much of healing entails bringing our awareness from up here, and all the noise, all the chaos, all the chatter down into the body, and just being aware of the body and just relaxing into ourselves and like noticing everything. That changes so much. And yesterday was just, I literally remember like just noticing, like when you here's the thing to understand about this. When you're so caught up in the noise in here, you're completely disconnected. I mean, maybe not completely disconnected, but for much more of a percentage disconnected from the environment around you, right? And so when you bring your awareness out of here and down into here and also in here, so you can become aware of this and also sensations and feeling, the spatial sense of awareness around you, it literally changes the dynamics of everything. It's wild.